Hey everyone, it's Lucas with another Big Brother Spoilers intro. Today's guest is none other than Cliff Hogg from Big Brother 21, a true fan favorite whose humor, strategy, and unforgettable Cliff Note cam talks left a lasting mark on the game. It's hard to believe, but it's been 6 years since Cliff's season, and we have so much to catch up on. In this interview, Cliff opens up about his life since leaving the house, how his Big Brother experience impacted his career and personal life, and what it was really like transitioning back to normal life after the whirlwind of reality TV. He reflects on the highs and lows of BB21, including his relationships with fellow houseguests, the tough choices that shaped the game, and moves he wishes he could take back. We also dive into some of the most memorable moments from his season, from Jackson's controversial camp director banishment to the shocking late-game evictions that shifted the entire outcome of the season. But we don't just look back. Cliff also gives his perspective on Big Brother 27, sharing his thoughts on the season's twists, the accomplice and blockbuster shakeups, and Rachel's big return, and how the new cast stacks up against past seasons. He reveals who he's rooting for, who reminds him of players from his own season, and which houseguests he thinks will have what it takes to go all the way. And of course we talk fandom, future, and fun, from Cliff's own casting story to the possibility of playing Big Brother again, to what reality shows he would love to try next. Plus, we chat about his YouTube channel Cliff Notes and what fans can expect from him moving forward. This one is packed with thoughtful, insightful, and packed with Big Brother nostalgia, so let's get into it.
Hey Cliff, I'm so excited to be talking today. It's been 6 years since Big Brother 21, so how has life been for you since leaving the Big Brother house?
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's been 6 years. That's incredible. In a lot of ways, it certainly seems like just yesterday, especially every time I start watching another season of the of Big Brother and all that. But life's treating me well. I'm still here living the life. I'm still passionate about reality TV, about Big Brother in particular. Wife and kids. Kids are both married, and so yeah, everything's looking fantastic.
So was there anything difficult about transitioning back to normal life after the show? So I'm sure you weren't used to all that attention you were getting. So how was life after the show immediately?
Yeah, it's hard for me when I audition. I know they get people and they've got all the Instagram followers and all that. They asked me, they said, Cliff, how many followers do you have? And I don't even have an account. I've got like a LinkedIn and Snapchat, and that's about all I've got on here. So I had to set up accounts when I got out, and I really thought that, all right, I've done the show. When I get done, I've got a real job. It's not like I'm going to go out and do influencing and all of that. I'll let other folks do that. So I really thought I'd do the show and then that'd be it. And I'd just go back to the real world. The reality is that, one, it was incredibly stressful in there. I went through about 3 months of just very, very much on edge in terms of my nerves. And I'm not going to compare it to what soldiers go through because it's so much more what they deal with. But I do feel like I got just a little taste of PTSD of being so paranoid after spending 3.5 months in the house. So that took a little getting used to and recovery from that. But then after that was over, then COVID hit. I was locked into a house again. At least I had my wife with me this time. But I took advantage of that downtime and started doing Cliff Notes and some recaps and things like that. And suddenly discovered that, all right, I don't have to completely leave the Big Brother reality TV community. I get to keep on talking about it and doing some things. And that's always been a lot of fun. So it definitely took a few months of recovery, but it's a hard game. It is that's why when I do my show, I always tell everyone, take everything that's happens in that house with a grain of salt. Don't judge people based on their worst possible days of their lives. And while they're playing a game that's designed to bring out the worst in people, because now I get it. And I understand what that can do to a person.
I'm curious, as far as you doing the Cliff Notes and still being involved with the show the way you are, do you think that if you were evicted and you hadn't done the camp comeback and gone back into the game, do you think that your fandom would be any different?
Yeah, I think so. It would have been easy to kind of forget about me in some ways. And we always hear, oh, let's bring back first boots for a new season. And I could see someone say, oh, yeah, bring back that guy that was in the cowboy hat. Oh, what was his name? Yeah, the Cliff guy. I do feel like that day number 30, I got evicted. I won battle back. I won HOH. I told everyone in the house at that point, I said, all right, now I've made my mark. It's not that I want to go now, but at least I feel like I've made my mark in the game. What a lot of people don't realize is I took a temporary leave of absence at work in order to play the game. And they had said, all right, Cliff, you've got basically, 45 days worth of vacation and sick time and all of that. If you're still gone after that point, we'll hire you back, but we're going to have to let you go because it's the way it is. Well, my last day that I had was day number 30, where if I'd gotten evicted that day, I could have gone back to work. But after that, I knew this is it. So now I'm in it for the long haul. So in a lot of ways, day number 30 was absolutely the turning point for me. And I felt like I started playing the game a lot more after that point as well. Before, it's just a matter of trying to survive day to day. After that, I was a little bit more envisioning things I could do to shake up the game a little bit more.
And you were a petroleum engineer, right? So did you get that job back after, or?
Well, I did, but it was a little difficult because of COVID and everyone shutting down and all of that. But yeah, it's good in that I think I presented myself well, and people at work. It's not like I was in there cursing and fighting and drinking and doing all kinds of stuff that would bring any kind of problems to the company. So yeah, it worked out fine, and I found out when I got back, they'd set up a monitor in the middle of the main room, so everyone in the lunchroom area, so everyone could watch me throughout the day. And so, yeah, I had some of my biggest fans through work, but I've always been passionate about my work, passionate about being an engineer. I'd like to think that a lot of what I've learned throughout life, I was able to use while I was in that house trying to negotiate with 15 other knuckleheads. But yeah, it was a fun little sabbatical from work to go in and play that game.
So I saw you went to Kat and Brooklyn's premiere party in Texas, right? So how was that?
Oh, so much fun. I got to meet, I met Quinn, I met Brooklyn, I met Angela. I'd communicated with them online and through messaging and some text messages, things like that. But to actually get to sit with them and hang out a little bit with them, it's a lot of fun. It was fun being with them as they got the first taste of what it was like to be a former Big Brother player and watch a new group of people come into the house and see how you respond. Because I remember when I did that, there was almost a little bit of jealousy after I'd been in a house the next year or two saying, what are they doing in my house? That is my house. That's where I used to hang out. That was my kitchen. And now these newbies are in there. And but at the same time, you're so excited to see them get the experience as well. And I have tried from the time I was in the house until I've gotten out to reach out to all of the house guests, either once they're evicted or if they're on jury once the season wraps, and just say, welcome to the Big Brother family. We're a small group, but we watch out for each other, and welcome aboard, and make sure they feel and realize that they are now part of a very, very cool little group of folks to hang out with.
Yeah, I go to Oz's premiere party in New York every year. I've told Kat for years, I'm like, you got to come to New York one year, but she has her own parties. Would you ever come to New York for a premiere party?
I'd be a blast. I've been all over the world as a petroleum engineer, but I'd never been to New York City because there's not a lot of oil up there. But I got to go up last year when Nicole got married. And so I wasn't going to miss that. So my wife and I went up there, did all the tour stuff in New York City, had a blast. Yeah, I would absolutely love to go up there and hobnob and visit. There's several people from my season that are up in that area, and all the newer house guests. Yeah, it'd be fantastic to do. One of these days, I've got to make it happen. That'd be fantastic.
So let's get into this season. So how have you been liking the season? Who are your favorite house guests? Tell me all your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I watch all this chaos going on between Morgan and Vince and Lauren, this little trio, and I should be enjoying all the discussions and the chaos, but it just tires me out. They just go round and around with each other. I will say the thing I really liked when the season started, I love the theme. I thought the mystery house and all that was just perfect. I've always loved the theme from mine, the camp world and all of that, but this was a fantastic setup. I've liked the house guest. When they came in, I thought it was going to be interesting, and I've enjoyed it to some degree. Sometimes I question some of the things going on. It just feels like there's way too many people who have only seen one season of Big Brother, and it was probably last season with BB Arena and all of that going on. Because the way they play the game, just someone like a Kelly that's so reminiscent of Tucker, just who cares? Just put me up there. I'll win the challenge. That's not the way I'm used to playing Big Brother. As far as twists go, I see why people like to have this blockbuster and have 3 nominations. I get it. It makes for a much more exciting Thursday night. And I will say some of these blockbuster comps, I've been on pins and needles watching. The one with the balls, trying to catch the balls. There's been some fantastic ones. So I get that side of it. I'm always a little bit worried, though, when you give people an extra chance to get off the block. it may slow down some of the gameplay at the start of the season. Suddenly now you've got that extra opportunity, so people are less willing to make a big move early in the game. And so I think it slows down the early game stuff that's going on. I know during my season, even just knowing there was camp comeback, there was a battle back that took place, was one of the biggest reasons that Nick didn't go after Jack and Jackson Mickey during his HOH. He put up me instead, which was not great. But I do think sometimes, as much drama as it creates on Thursday nights, it kind of interferes with the gameplay a little bit. So I thought the first part of the season a little bit slow, but it certainly has handled itself well. As far as who I like, he has played an incredibly sloppy game, but I got to say I'm kind of team Keanu at this point, just because, one, he is so optimistic. I just love a guy who, no matter how bad things look, he's like, yeah, I got it. I'll take care of it. It's going to work. He always has a plan on ways to make things happen. So, and then kind of cheering on Keanu a little bit. Big fan of Ava. I know now that she's getting a little more threatened and all of that, and actually having to play the game. Some people have gotten a little concerned with her. And all. I'm still cheering for her a little bit. She reminds me a lot of Nicole from my season. Her and Will's relationship reminded me a little bit of Nicole and my relationship. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm team Keanu. I don't know if he's going to win it, but kind of cheering for the guy just because he's always trying. He's always fighting. You never question that he isn't in that house to play and win that game.
Yes, I was going to ask that this season's Texas house guests are Keanu and Adrian. So do you find yourself usually rooting for the other people from Texas?
Yeah, I'm always going to cheer for the older guys. So Will certainly, I wish he'd won a few things so he could actually had a little control in the house. I don't feel like he got a chance to do a whole lot. A fantastic guy. He just didn't get really a chance to direct anything that happened in the house. But I'll always cheer for the older guy. I've always going to cheer for the folks here from my neck of the woods. So yeah, Keanu's up in McKinney, which is just outside Dallas-Fort Worth. Now Quinn and I went up, and Brooklyn was up there as well, to a casting call in March or February for Big Brother. And Quinn and I have tried to compare notes, saying, was Keanu up at this thing? And we don't think so. We're pretty sure we would have recognized him if that was the case. So he may not have made it. But yeah, I certainly am going to cheer for him. I've talked to Adrian a couple of times. He's over in San Antonio. And man, that guy, he was so prepared. I still see his videos of all the comps he's got built in the backyard and things like that. Just sometimes it's not even always your fault. Sometimes things just don't work out in that game. I always tell people, if you're one of the first ones to go, don't feel so bad about it, because sometimes it doesn't have that much to do with you. And if you're one of the last ones in the game, don't get too cocky about it, because there's also a lot of luck that goes into this game. Play this game 10 times and you're going to have 10 different results.
So who do you think that you would align with if you were on this season?
Yeah, it would be tough, because it depends on whose place I'm taking in there. Being that during my season, I kind of came in as a bit of an underdog role and had to win a few challenges to move forward and all of that. I'm trying to think more so who I would not align with, just because they're emotional and not always able to figure out what's going on. Vince, I'm not going to criticize his strategy too much, because he's still there and he's making it happen, whatever he's doing. But someone who is constantly crying and saying, oh, I just screwed up and this is horrible, would absolutely drive me bonkers in the house. So I feel like in a lot of ways I would be in a position similar to Will was, of just saying, just stop talking, just do what you want to do and make things happen. And so if I was kind of in Will's position as the older guy, I'd be working with Ava for certain. I mentioned that, but I think I probably would have reached out to. I think I would have reached out to Kelly and Keanu. Now they're wild cards as well, and here I am talking logic and all of that. And sometimes I'm not sure Kelly especially always works with the most logic. She's just there to disrupt. But Keanu, I feel like I could probably have worked with, just because he does. Even if his plans aren't going to work, I do feel like he thinks things through and tries to come up with approaches. And I feel like I could have gone in. I feel like I tried to play a very loyal game as much as you can while playing the game of Big Brother. And I think Keanu is one of those who would have respected it And I also think Keanu's one of those that if he thought you were fighting hard, he would respect that as well. And so I feel like he and I, in some ways, would have vibed with each other and made things happen.
Yeah, and someone we haven't talked about yet is Rachel. What were your just general thoughts on her coming back as the one returning player, as the winner?
Well, I've never been a big fan of having a season where you just have one or two returning house guests. I didn't like it when Nicole and James came back. I didn't like it when Paul came back. I would rather have all newbies or all returning players, unless it's some special team coaches, and we've seen things like that before. But I was not a huge fan. Nothing against Rachel. I was not a huge fan of anyone coming back that is a special player. I wasn't a huge fan of Sari coming in a couple of seasons ago for the same reason. I just want everyone on equal footing when they start the game, and that wasn't the case. Having said that, I thought Rachel played a fantastic game. For her to come in and be as big a target as she was. Now, I know she had protection at the first week, but that was it. And yet she quickly figured out a way to get a little under the radar while still influencing the game. She had that death stare that made people do things just because they were scared of her. But I thought she did a pretty good job of positioning herself where she had control, and yet there were bigger targets in the house than her. And her relationship with her and Keanu was always just interesting, to say the least. So I've got a whole new level of respect for the way Rachel played the game. I remember her from her early seasons where it was all very much a lot of yelling and winning the competitions and doing things that she did different than this season. And so I feel like she showed us a different level of Rachel Riley play. So I was impressed with it, and I don't think it affected the game as much as I was afraid it would. I think she slotted in pretty well, and yeah, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I'm still not a huge fan of that approach, unless it's me going in, and then we'll make an exception. Other than that, I'm not a huge fan of it. But no, I think Rachel did a fantastic job, and I was feeling bad that she went just as much as everyone else, especially the way she went. Kind of irritated me.
So do you think that if you ever found yourself in the Big Brother house again with Rachel, is Rachel someone you'd want to work with?
Oh, in a heartbeat. Absolutely. I've thought so much about that. If I was in there with Rachel, first thing I would have done is gone to her and said, look, we're going to be the biggest targets. They're going to come after us. We've got to stick with each other. A little bit like Nicole Franzel and Ian Terry did when they were the two winners during All-Star. I would have said, we need to stick by each other. You've seen my game. You know I'm a loyal player, and I know that you're a mom, you're a family person. Yeah, we've got a lot of similarities. And then I would have said, let's maybe be on different sides, not necessarily make it look too obvious that we're working together, but we got to keep each other's back. And I would have gone, yeah, I would have been fine going probably to the end with her, or at least close to it. Yeah, I would have loved to have worked with Rachel Riley. That would have been fantastic.
Have you ever gotten a chance to meet Rachel?
Yes, I have. I actually met her. It's funny because before my season, one of the interviews, I think, I can't remember who it was. It was Jeff Schroeder or someone. And I said, yeah, I'd hate to have to play with someone like Rachel Riley, who was so emotional and cried so much and all. It would drive me crazy. And then Rachel doing a cast review during my season said, yeah, it doesn't bother me because Cliff's going to figure out when he's in the house. And when I got out, one of the first people I reached out to was Rachel and said, I'm so sorry. I understand everything about the stresses of the game and how it's played. I'm so sorry I did anything. She said, nah, I get it. Absolutely. But I did get to meet her at one of the Hearts of Reality charity events. Oh, it's been a couple of years now, but met her and Brendan and her kids. Incredibly nice, just the most incredibly nice person. But getting to watch her with her children and watch her not as a person inside the Big Brother house, but watching her interact as a mother and as a wife, and just seeing what a fantastic person she is. Yeah, it was cool. She wasn't Rachel Riley, the Big Brother player at that time, or the reality star. She was just Rachel Riley, the mom and husband, wife, and just a nice person. So yeah, it was cool getting to meet her outside the realm of a game show type setup.
And you mentioned her elimination. What were your thoughts on that being a twist and getting eliminated from the game without a vote? And
I know a lot of people are like, oh, how dare they get her out without even the vote and the eviction and all that. And I get that. I absolutely do. I would rather see her get the chance to campaign and pitch and all that. But after seeing the episode, it didn't bother me as much as it did, because there was some social component. There was a lot more pressure and stress and strategy and who got picked when. And then watching Rachel, I just keep thinking of Rachel and that hamster wheel maze alongside Caitlin Herman and her puzzle, where for whatever reason, they just got flustered. I think Rachel could have gone first. If Ava had picked her first, I think Rachel still goes home. I just don't think she quite had that wheel figured out. And so after seeing that, it is what it is. What I didn't like was that this is certainly, I would think it's Rachel's probably last hurrah inside the Big Brother house. And I would have loved to have seen the opportunity for her to get kind of the Queen's exit, to walk out to people cheering in the audience, and her getting her last words with Julie Chen, and just get the exit she deserved. It's almost like a star football player that ends up getting cut preseason instead of getting to go out in front of the stadium and everyone cheering for him. And so I felt like it for Rachel. So from a personal standpoint, just getting to say a proper send-off for her, I wish it had gone differently. But as far as gameplay, still not my favorite, but I'm okay with it. The one thing I do wish is that production had let us, the viewers, and probably the house guests as well, but let us know what was getting ready to happen at the end of the HOH of that Thursday episode. If they had said one person is going home at the end of the night and shown us the wheel, or given us a little bit of a teaser, I just think about how many pins and needles we would have been on if we then got to either see the competition live or at least spent the next day or two worrying about who is going home. Instead, we didn't have a clue. And then all of a sudden we look up on the live feeds and she's gone. And it was almost a little anticlimactic. So I think they could have teased us a little bit differently and made it that much more exciting as well. But I'm not production and they didn't call me. So it is what it is.
Did you see any similarities between Rachel's elimination and how David got evicted in 21?
Yeah, it was hard. It was almost harder for Rachel because she had, what is it, 60 days, about 60 days or so. She had a lot of time invested in the game. And so she had a chance to establish relationships and all that. David, unfortunately, or me or Kimmy or Jessica, any one of the four of us could have gone home on day number one, which I'm a huge opponent of day one evictions, because I think everyone deserves a chance to get in there and show what you can do. And if someone has to go on day number one, it's too easy to fall back on stereotypes and there's just a lot of things built in that I don't like when someone has to pick without getting to know you first. And so, yeah, when we did that competition, when I didn't know, I was the first person that was banished during my season. So I didn't know who the three people I was going up against. And when it was David and Kimmy and Jessica, it's like, oh my gosh, I hate that one of us is going home. And I didn't think it would be David. I truly thought he would probably make it through. But then when I realized I was the first one to solve the maze and had to just wait there for one person at a time. And I was very happy when Ovi got evicted our season. And they immediately said, no, you're not going anywhere. And then David got a chance to come back in as well. So at least he got a chance to hang out and stay in the house a little bit. But it was never really fair terms for him at that point. He was already in camp, come back and all that. I'm glad he got a chance to come back and do All Stars and sink or swim, whatever. At least he had the chance to do it.
And a lot of this cast isn't really big fans of the show. How do you think this has affected the gameplay that a lot of people don't even know Rachel from her original seasons?
Isn't that something? I saw Kelly said last night something about Fruit Loop Dingus. I was like, well, maybe you watch more than I think you do or something if you use that term. But I know, is it Ashley who keeps saying, no, I think Kelly, or Morgan who says, I think Kelly's a huge fan. Yeah, no, I don't think she is. I think there's a lot who just don't have a clue. They've watched the last season or two. I'm a huge fan of Big Brother. I've been watching it since season 8 passionately. I've got my family hooked on it and all that. So I always have a respect in the right word. I always like the other players who are passionate about the game. During my season, you had someone like Tommy Bracco and Christy and a few that were very hardcore Big Brother fans. And I always just have an empathy with them because of that. So I probably am a little bit biased against folks that don't understand the game. But at the same time, I also realize there may be some good things about bringing someone in who doesn't necessarily watch it, because they may try new strategies, work or not. They may try things and discover things that we who've been watching for a long time. I'm never going to absolutely volunteer to go on the block. I'm never going to give my veto to someone else when I'm on the block. And yet we've seen some of those things happen in the past year or two. So I'm okay with them getting a few newbies in. When you get too many, I don't know what it is about this season. They don't understand. You don't put your allies on the block. And it is okay by the time that you get to this point in the game that you have some people that you're not friends with, that there's some lines that have to be drawn. You can't, I say you can't get to the end and not have some alliances built in, but it seems like they're still trying to do that. I'm gobsmacked that Vince is still able to maintain these relationships with these different sides and make it happen so far.
Yeah, and speaking of Vince, there's been a few interesting relationships in the house. I wanted to hear your thoughts on Vince and Morgan of it all.
They just go at it. I feel like we started off with Keanu and Rachel, and now that they're gone, and now it's just Morgan and Vince have stepped in a little bit. And I think when there were more people in the house, it was easier for Vince to hide Morgan from Lauren and Lauren from Morgan, but it's harder to do when there's not as many places to hide in that house in terms of people and all of that. And I don't know how Vince does it, how he maintains the two of them, and that they both don't just suddenly. I keep waiting for Lauren and Morgan to say, you know what, hit the road, Jack. The two of us are going to work together. We're going to hash out our stuff, and you're off on your own, guy. It's not ever going to happen. But I want to see talk about Month of Mayhem. I want a Pandora's box where they just lock Morgan and Lauren and Vince into a room for 24 hours and let them have to hash it out amongst themselves. And then the rest of the house can be sitting out by the hot tub and give them caviar and lobster and let them enjoy 24 hours of a little more peace and quiet. I tell you, it tires me out. I get it. And I was, in the past day or two, I've been a little critical of Vince, that he just kind of weasels his way through everything and all. But I've also said if he can make it work, then give him the thing, confetti at the end and the check and all that. But it's not the way I'd ever play a game. It's been a little tough, but I'm starting to lean back a little bit the other direction because I think it was last night that Lauren said, hey, if she's so insistent on you putting me up on the blocks arena, let her win HOH and let her put me up. And I thought that was a fair point. This is Vince's HOH. And no matter how Weasley he is in the way he tries to explain it, and I would prefer almost that he just say, look, this is what's going to happen. I'm not putting her up. I want to still work with you, but I'm not putting her up. And let's see if based on that, we can make things happen. He doesn't do that. He just keeps backtracking and all that. And so, yeah, but I do recognize now that, or I'm thinking more about it, that it is his HOH. If it benefits his game to hold on to Lauren, Morgan may just have to accept that and figure out, does she just cut him loose completely? Does she just kiss up to him a little bit just because she may need his vote next week or something? But Lauren's right. She needs to win an HOH. She's three-peated down to vetoes, which is fantastic. But we don't have a whole lot of HOHs left. Win one of those things, and then you can put Lauren up and send her out the door, put it on your resume, and you're good to go.
And another interesting relationship in the house was Riley and Catherine. What did you think of Riley and Catherine?
I had during my season a lot of showmances that drove me bonkers. I'm not a big fan of showmances in the Big Brother house at all. Those two, a different kind of relationship. I had a lot of people on my show saying, "Oh, it's horrific the way he treats her and all that." And I will agree. There were times where I thought he was a little overbearing and say, "Don't talk to her. You can't talk to her." I certainly think there were some things that I would have not said the same way he said and all that. But at the same time, I told all people she's a grown woman who can make her own decision. And at the end of the day, let her be her, let him be him. Not sure how much of Catherine's game was her truly being enamored with him and how much of it was her just playing the game and being a bit of strategy. And we don't know when we're watching in there. We make assumptions, but we can't judge too much. And so even though there are a few times where I thought, God, just pull back a little bit. And I know there were comparisons with with Caleb, Beast Mode Cowboy, and I absolutely recognize those as well. It amazes me that people can just find hardcore true love after a couple of weeks in a house, knowing that you were in such incredibly stressful situations. So yeah, I was always saying, yeah, just wait until they get out, and then whatever happens, happens. And I haven't heard that much afterwards, other than the fact that she told Julie that, yeah, she actually did like him. And, so we'll see what happens as we go forward with it.
Who do you think is currently playing the best game? Who do you think's like the front runner to win?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, Vince is a little squirmy guy and all that, but he keeps surviving. I think I told you I'm Team Keanu, but I feel like he's in trouble. A lot of people get him out if they ever get a chance because he's won so many times. Ava hasn't done enough to argue if she makes it to a final two chair. Kelly, I think, has just alienated too many people in there. Ashley, I kind of feel the same way as Ava. She just hasn't done enough. So we're quickly pulling ourselves back to, say, a Lauren or Morgan type deal. Lauren, they said she's indecisive, and I absolutely agree with that. She has a hard time making a decision. She seems very dependent on Vince. But on the other hand, as Keanu said, she's going to come up here, Vince. She's going to use her Southern charm. She's going to bat her eyes. She did that. She threw out a few tears, and she controls Vince. So I don't think it's Vince controlling her. I think it's the other way around. So I'm not giving Lauren as much credit as I probably need to, because I'm kind of biased on what I saw of the first part of the season, where I didn't feel like she was doing much at all for her own game. But really, in terms of strategy, I'm kind of seeing Morgan there. I don't know that she's got a perfect path to get to the end. There's still a lot of landmines between here and there. But I feel like she's okay. And we've even seen the last day or so, she started talking to Keanu a little bit. She's got Ashley now next to her. Once Rachel was gone, Ashley latched on to Morgan. I don't think Ava or Kelly are necessarily huge. Well, Kelly may be going after Morgan. They've always been at it. Kelly and Lauren, I guess, are big against Morgan. But other than that, I feel like Morgan has done a lot to make it to the end. If she makes it to the end, I would feel justified in giving it to her, especially if she wins another comp or two. She reminds me a little bit like Casey from season 20, where she didn't do that much the first half of the season. Well, Morgan was doing stuff, but she kind of has turned it on from the comp standpoint. And as she does that and controls a little bit more of the game, if she wins HOH next week and she puts Lauren and Kelly on the block or something, then I think she's looking good, and she's got the resume she needs at the end as well.
And the finale is just 2 weeks away from today. What are your thoughts on the blockbuster? Why is the blockbuster still in play at the final 7?
Yeah, that surprises me a little bit. And as someone had pointed out, lots of people, Morgan and others pointed out, the fact that Lauren hasn't even touched the block when you're making 3 nominations every week it's either really incredible gameplay, or it's a sign that you are considered such a low-end threat that no one even cares about it. And I think for Lauren, it's a little bit of both. Yeah, I told you earlier, I'm not necessarily always a huge fan of having 3 people, because I think it stifles some gameplay and some big moves. I really thought it was going to end at jury. I mean, at this point in time, we're to the point that starting next week, everyone's playing in veto. I mean, you're down to that level. And I think back to my season, our final 6 was Jackson and Holly, Nicole, myself, and Tommy and Christy. And we were going against each other. And if we had to put up 3 people on the block, I just feel like it forces you to not draw the line as much between good and bad, because you may be forced to put up people that you really want to work with, that may even be allies, but you're forced to just say, hey, I got to put someone up. You're my pawn, and we're going after those. And I really think at this point in time, they should be back to 2. I wish they'd done it a couple of weeks ago, because I think then, I don't know, I think it would have been easier to draw the line between us and them, instead of having this little gray area because of the extra nominations you have to make.
Who do you think you could see being America's favorite player? Who would have your vote?
Let's see. I think Keanu's going to get a lot of votes. I think a lot of people are going to have enjoyed his game, whether sloppy as it is. I think Keanu could get a lot of votes. I certainly think Rachel is going to get a huge number of votes. I mean, Ava was saying, "Oh, just hand it to Rachel. She's got such a fan base." I could easily see it being Rachel. And I'm probably still going to go with Ava as the third one. I mean, I know some people have gotten a little turned off on her here lately, especially when she kind of was griping about Rachel after the end of that and all that. But I'll kind of hold out that third pick based on what happens between now and a couple of weeks from now. Who wins a few challenges? Who makes a bold move here or there? There's still some room to be made, but I think Keanu and Rachel probably are in the final 2 out of 3. And I would not be the least bit surprised to see Rachel win this thing. She just has such a huge fan base. I almost feel like you need to give her a special icon award and then let the America's favorite go to the rest of the house guest.
And another new addition to the game was the BB Unlocked, the Friday episodes. Have you been watching those? What do you think of those?
Not as much. I feel just because I watch the live feeds, I don't feel as obligated to watch those. So I've tuned in every once in a while, checked out some things here and there. I went to see what they were talking about with the White Locust backyard, and it was cool watching them see the behind the scenes on the wall comp and how it's set up and all of that. So some of their behind the scenes areas have been good. As far as the rest of it, I just feel like I watch so much already. It's a little bit lower on my priority list.
And is there anything else about this season you want to talk about before we get into you and your season a little bit?
No, it's just been an interesting season. It's not the cleanest, and I'm curious next season, are they going to tell people watch season 27? And I kind of hope not. I mean, I think it's been a little lacking sometimes in some of the more strategic gameplay. It's been a much sloppier season, but from a drama standpoint, we certainly have had plenty of drama as well. So I'm enjoying it. But I'm also now to that point where I'm kind of ready to just rush up the last couple of weeks. I would be perfectly happy to have an eviction every couple of days and be done in a week and just get to the end. I feel like I just about know everything I need to know about these house guests at this point. So it's time to wrap up the season and we'll start talking about season 28 in a couple of weeks.
So maybe you're a bit biased, but how do you think 27 stacks up versus your season? Is 27 better? Do you think 21 is better?
Yeah, it's hard for me to ever be objective about my season. I do like the fact it seems to me, because people were so critical of our season when it first got out. I mean, 21, one of the worst ever, and all. I feel like it's gotten a little bit more folks liking it for gameplay, even if they don't like everyone who was in the house. From a gameplay standpoint, I do think because of Battle Back and just that huge horrific alliance that we had at the start, that the first of our season was incredibly slow. I just remember being in there thinking, just survive one more day, one more week. There wasn't any long-term planning. It was just a matter of push the other people onto the train so it's not you until you can get somewhere where we can make something happen. So I think our first part, our pre-jury, was a little rough. I think we did a lot of things post-jury, and I certainly enjoyed all the figuring out and planning and betrayals and everything else that happened. And I know there's people who don't like a lot of our housemates and all that. They're all family to me. I mean, I talk, not all of them, but I talk to a lot of them and all. And so, yeah, as compared to 27, it's hard to say. We had the Showmances, which influenced it so much in ours. You don't really have it here, but I also feel like we had a little bit more strategic play sometimes. I feel like I did a fair amount of it. Jackson Mickey did. Tommy, Nick was in there. Christy certainly was I think Christy and Morgan have a lot of parallels in a lot of ways sometimes. I find myself a lot of times trying to compare people from this season to my season and who filled what role and things like that. And that's always fun to do.
So what is your casting story? How did you end up on Big Brother in the first place?
I've been a fan forever. I really started watching religiously season 8. Watched the first season and then kind of tailed off a little. I had young kids, not always something you would watch with young kids in the house, but started watching again season 8. They had a casting call here in Houston, and Haley Broker from season 20, who's went to A&M, so we went to the same college. She a few years after me, but both Aggies. She had posted, say, hey, I'm going to be at this casting call and go downtown and come check it out. We have in Houston a huge rodeo. The Houston rodeo is a big deal down here. But they also have a big barbecue cook-off that takes place. And so my wife and I were going to this barbecue cook-off. So I was suited up. I had the hats, the boots. I was as country western as you could possibly get. But on the way to the barbecue cook-off, I said, well, let's stop and just check out the knuckleheads, the goofballs that are trying out for this show. So we actually pulled into this bar, parked across the street, and watched everyone in line forever and just kind of laughed. Oh, that person looks like they're trying to act like, so-and-so, or they're trying, oh, we can tell they're trying to fill this role, and just having fun with it. Well, right before they shut down the line for like 2:30 or 3, I said, well, let's go get in line so that we can go inside and see what it looks like and everything. And so Sharon, my wife, went with me. We got in line. So we were the very last people in line before they shut it down. And we spent the next 2-3 hours just talking to everyone in line, and eventually got to the point where my wife said, yeah, you go do it. I'm not trying out, but you go, feel free, Cliff. My daughter called and said, what are y'all doing? I said, well, we're here to try out for Big Brother. And she immediately said, well, yeah, that's not for you. That's for young college kids. Yeah. What are you doing? I said, watch this, just watch. And so I stood in line, got to know everyone around me, and just had who's actually going to get cast on the show. Not me. But when I got into the group of producers, had zero planned, but they said something about, why would you do well on Big Brother? And I said, well, I would win Big Brother because I'm a storyteller. If I'm in the house 99 nights, I've got 100 stories to tell. Been all over the world, had guns pulled on me, near plane crashes. I just got a lot of stories. And they said, okay, Cliff. And they called me the next day, said, come in, we'd like to get some video. And the next thing you know, that's it. My wife kept saying, they're going to get you on the show, Cliff. I kept saying, no, this is a cool experience, but they're going to call eventually and say that's the end of it. Well, with 2 or 3 weeks to go and I was still in the running, I started thinking, well, maybe there is a chance that I could actually do this show. So yeah, I had nothing planned. I actually just tried out just for the fun and the experience of saying I tried out for it. And I think that helped me because I wasn't nervous or uptight at all. I was just there to shoot the bull and have fun. And I think that was conveyed in the conversations I had.
So was that your first time going through the process? Did you only apply once? That
was it. I never sent in a video. I never, my brother and I, a long time ago, had tried out for The Amazing Race and done a video one time, and nothing ever came of it. And yeah, I was always so busy with family and work and all of that. And if they hadn't had the casting call, I wouldn't have sent in a video. It just happened to be that it was happening, and I was already driving that direction. And so it's just kind of, sometimes things just work out. There's a little bit of karma there, I suppose. Things just happen to work the way they needed to make it happen.
So being that since you were a fan of the show since season 8, why did you not think in those 12 years until 21? You're like, yeah, I want to try to get on the show at all?
Because one, it's like, all right, I know there's 10,000 people or 100,000 or whatever trying out. And, what are the chances of me getting actually on the show? And I was so busy with work and career and young kids at home. And, and I'll be real honest with you. If I was going on a reality show, it would not have been Big Brother. I spent a lot of time saying it would drive me bonkers having to spend 3 months in a house with all those people. There's no way. Put me on Survivor. Put me on an island somewhere for a month and I'll be fine. I got a little extra on me. I can handle eating just rice for a few weeks and I'll be fine with that. So if I was going to try out for any show, it would have been either Survivor or Amazing Race because I've been all over the world. Big Brother was not on my radar, even though I watched the show. But I truly also probably had a little bit of perception. It's more a young person show. So yeah, because of all those things, it wasn't really anything that I ever pictured. Now, having said that, after every episode of Big Brother, while I was showering before bed, I would play the game in my head. And I told the producers during the casting process, I said, I've been watching since season 8 and I've put myself in the house every single season. And amazingly, I've won every single season based on knowing what needed to be done. And Allison Grodner said, yeah, a lot of people feel like they win every season that they aren't on. I said, yeah, that's so I certainly spent a lot of time thinking strategies and all that. But in terms of actually pulling a trigger, I just never got around to it, which is why I always tell everyone now, go for it. Enjoy the experience. Even if nothing ever comes of it, you can say you tried out. And someone has to get picked. 16, someone has to get picked. And I'm a perfect example that Don't ever count yourself out. It can happen to anyone.
You have 100% success rate, so.
That's right. I tried out one time and I got on the show. Now they just need to put me back on the show, so I'll have a 50% success rate at actually winning Big Brother.
So since doing the show, did your fandom of the game change at all? Like, did you still watch the shows? You still keep up with it? Or are you like less into it now that you've done it?
No, I'm probably a little bit more into it. And I was worried about that. I thought, all right, people say, oh, once you see behind the curtain, it's going to kind of spoil it and all that. And I was worried that, am I ever going to be able, because there's people from my season who won't watch the show anymore just because they feel either the emotions come to surface too easily, or they just don't, it just doesn't mean as much as it used to. I'm just the opposite. Now that I was in the house, I can see people on an episode on the live feeds talking, and I can understand and appreciate their lack of knowledge of what's happening in the next room. Or during the Thursday night or Thursday when they've got so much downtime while they're getting ready for the live episode, I'm always telling my wife, oh, this is when they're locked down in HOHs. This is when they're practicing the vote. So I've got a lot of behind the scenes information, and I think helps me appreciate the overall process a lot more than I had beforehand. So no, I think it's turned me into to a bigger fan in a lot of ways. And even little things, like I have a lot of people reach out, say, oh, that's scripted. They tell you what to say, right? I mean, there's only so much that you do on your own. And because I was on the show, and I know that is not the case, that when you go into the diary room, they may sometimes give you some leading questions, but everything that happens in there is you. They're not telling you who to nominate or any like that. And so I realize that it's much more raw and much more real than I even perhaps assumed when I was watching the show originally. And so that gives me a lot more focus, or a lot more passion to knowing that they truly are going through all the emotions that we think they're going through when we watch the show.
So looking back on your season, is there anything you wish you would have done differently?
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot of, there's always regrets and shoulda, coulda, wouldas and all of that. I mean, I look at every decision I made and think, oh, what would have happened if I did this or this differently? The first part of the season, it was just all about survival. It was all about being just defensive in some ways. Even my HOH, I made a deal with Christy of, hey, Bella's no huge friend of mine. I know she and Nick are going to go right back to the other side if y'all welcome them with open arms. So why am I going to go out of my way to do them? So when I found out Christy had her superpower veto, diamond power veto, whatever it was, I made a deal with her. And there's little things like that I envision. What if I, at the end, had still put her up on the block and done some things that I know viewers would have loved to have seen, and it would have gotten me a lot of street cred, so to speak, and all that. But I also realize I very easily could have been a pre-juror if I had done that. So there's a lot of things I did, and there's always been the discussion about Holly versus Tommy, and did we make the right call on that? And I'll stand by that. I think it gave us, it made it harder for Nicole and I to reach the final 3 or the final 2, but I think it gave us a much better chance if we had made it to the final 3 or 2 for the 2 of us to get to those final 2 chairs. And we came close. Nicole almost won that last veto. But yeah, you always go back and you think about all of those things and what you could have done differently. I've played it a lot in my head, and I don't see any way that I could have improved my position with some of those. The other one I always think about decision-wise is when I won the veto during the double eviction. Nicole had already put Tommy and Christy on the block, and I've really considered, a lot of people have said, oh, you should have gotten out Mickey or something else. I've thought a lot about the idea of I could have used the veto on Christy so that we would have then been forced either to vote out Mickey or Tommy, and I would have been the only vote. I mean, I would have been the deciding vote at that point in time. So yeah, there's things like that, but I don't think it necessarily would have helped my game. Would have made for much more drama in the house itself. But you think about a lot of those. The stuff I think about a little bit more, though, is just how I was in the house. That, you know, I wish I'd spent more time talking to David and some people that I wasn't as focused on them, because I already felt like they were kind of behind the 8 ball once they got back in the house. And I was so focused on just trying to survive myself. I wish I'd spent a little bit. I wish I hadn't talked so loud and gotten overheard by Christy. I wish I'd spent a little more time not worrying as much about strategy and just enjoying the experience and telling more stories about my life and things like that. But at the end, I was so focused on trying to play the game that, but I had a fantastic experience. I wish it lasted another 8 or 9 days, or 6 days, I guess would have been fantastic.
Yeah, so the camp talks was my next question of, did they actually impact other people's games when they found out about your camp talks at all?
Yes, and actually in a lot of ways it helped me. Fortunately, Christy couldn't keep her mouth shut. She would have been much better off when she overheard me if she had just come to me privately and said, "Hey, Cliff, I overheard you. I'm not gonna spill the beans as long as you play with me and work with me." And she probably could have used that to get some loyalty from me at that point, and she didn't. She told everyone, and fortunately, it was early enough in the season. There wasn't that much to be said. I think I'd said basically that I knew they were all this big alliance and the couples and all of that, which shouldn't have been a big surprise to anyone in that house. But it helped me because I don't know if they showed it on I've never actually seen my season. I've never been able to go in and watch it, but I have heard, my wife says, well, that after Christy said that, Jackson Mickey came back the next morning and he actually listened at the door. And he happened to be listening at the door while I was saying that, hey, the only people I really want to work with over there are Mickey and Holly. I feel like I can work with them, and I'm going to try to do what I can to help them realize I'll be loyal to them. And so he came back and told Holly, said, hey, we can do something with Cliff. And so I think that helped me long term of developing that relationship, which certainly helped get me further in the game. So it was fine. My biggest concern about that was, part of it was me being boneheaded and potentially risking my game. But I remember thinking, gosh, it's not just my game, but if I have jeopardized Nicole's game at this point, or Ovi's game, because I'd mentioned both of them as the alliance that we had and all that, I thought if I've screwed their game over, I'm really going to feel horrible that it wasn't just me, it was them as well. But it worked out. In the end, it worked out. It was one of those where I had to figure out how to pivot real quickly. And it kind of forced me to change my game, because once that happened and that was out there, I said, all right, well, I'm just going to have to try to be so honest that no one questions anything I do at this point. So I spent a lot of time telling people and building up this idea that, hey, we can trust Cliff. If he tells us something, it's going to happen. And between that and then me having that deal with Christy, it wasn't just me getting the protection for a couple of weeks. It was that by doing that and not betraying what I'd promised Christy, they felt from that point on that they would trust me. When I said I would do something, I would do it. And I think that's what saved my tail when it was Kat and I on the block on day 58, that she got sent home instead of me, because they felt like maybe they could trust me just a little bit more.
And there were two controversial events in your season I wanted to get your opinion on. So, like the first one being when Jackson was a camp director and put you and David and Kemi and Jessica as the people to banish. So what were your thoughts on that event at the time, and how do you feel looking back on it now?
Well, it was tough at the time because I wasn't really sure what all was going on, since I wasn't privy to all the conversations. But I was upset because when we all volunteered to be camp director, we had gone in to the storage room, the four of us, and said, hey, look, I'm the one who proposed it, and no one disagreed. I said, look, we all put ourselves out there. What if we commit right now to whatever happens, that we watch out for each other, that we don't penalize anyone for being courageous enough to volunteer to be camp director? And all three of them said, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's protect. Well, we'll watch out for each other. So then when Mickey put us up on the block, it's like, all right, man, you absolutely screwed me over here. So I was a little perturbed about that. But the controversial side of it, as far as who it was, it didn't strike me as unusual at the time, because it was more betrayal, but I didn't see it as anything beyond that, of just him putting up the other people who had volunteered to be camp director, and then Kemi, who had just not really gone to talk to Jackson Mickey and tried to make any kind of deal or anything else with them. So it didn't strike me as anything unusual in terms of who was picked. I saw it much more from a strategic standpoint than I did anything else that's been floated out there since then. But it's hard because you don't hear all the extra conversations going on. You're just wondering, why did he pick me? And I kind of thought it was just because I'd volunteered, and I still think that's the case. I think there's probably more built into that decision that's probably not actually true than possible, but who knows?
And another incident involving Mickey was when you were HOH and you named him as a have-not, and he broke the have-not rules. What was your reaction to that? And did you feel it was necessary, the part of the game that it was just dropped, that right have-nots were dropped after that?
Yeah, I don't know what caused them to be dropped, but we only had 2 weeks of have-nots, which surprised me completely. And I was HOH that week, so I wasn't downstairs showering. I'd always said I'm not going to jinx it. I'm not going to shower or do anything upstairs in the HOH bathroom until I get HOH. So once I was HOH, man, I was showering. I was using the bathtub up there. I was using the toilet. So I was never downstairs in the bathroom for the shower. So I never had the chance to see him cheating by eating in the shower. People have said, do you think that's possible? I said, hell yeah, I think that's possible. Sure, I have zero doubt that that's probably what absolutely did happen. And it perturbs me a little bit that if it did happen and it was seen enough that people noticed it, that there wasn't some kind of a penalty nomination. No, normally they say things like, "Oh, you're an extra nomination for the week," or something like that. If that had happened and he had been forced to go back on the block even after he won veto, well, that would change the whole vote structure. Suddenly, I would have had the votes at that point to send probably Jack Matthews out the door, and things would have been completely different. So, yeah, that part, the camp director, I understood the basis for why it happened, based just strictly on strategic gameplay. The have-not stuff, yeah, I didn't know any of that until I got out. No one told me in the house. I never heard anyone say, "Oh, he was eating." Now, we didn't know any of that until after the season. And then, yeah, I was a little irritated, but what are you going to do? You got to work with what you got.
So how do you feel about him as a winner, and how do you think he ranks compared to other winners of the game?
Oh, middle of the road. I mean, I'm not going to say he's the worst or anything like that. I don't think he played as perfect a game as some people may think. Little things like people talk about the brilliance of him telling that lie about Tommy. It almost cost him. It almost cost Holly, actually. We were back and forth, Nicole and I, about which way to go. And once he did that, I'm not sure either one of us completely trusted Mickey. I did not believe that Mickey had just had that conversation with Tommy the way he portrayed. It made zero sense for him to have talked about, for Tommy to have talked about that the day before evictions. But I did think, we both thought that they had a relationship in some form that had already been solidified, basically from like the wall comp or even before, that they'd never put each other on the block. We felt like if it came down to it, they would team up with each other if Christy or she was already gone, if Holly was out the door. So there were a lot of reasons that we chose to do what we did. And it wasn't just because of Mickey telling that little story. And there were other things that he almost got voted out when he revealed that Holly and Kat knew each other. And there was a lot of sloppy gameplay from Jackson Mickey. I think Jackson's strategic game was probably on the lower half of Big Brother players. His comp game was incredible. I mean, he just won a lot of competitions. And I've had a lot of people say, well, why didn't y'all vote him out earlier, knowing how strong he was at competitions? A lot of people forget he didn't win a lot of competitions the first half of the season. The very first competition he ever won was the veto during my HOH, which was day number 32. So he played low the first half. He had an injured foot, or at least he said he had an injured foot. So I saw other people as being maybe bigger or as big a threats as him. And then once he started turning it on, at one point it was like, well, if he's going to keep protecting me, I'm going to let him keep on winning eventually. And the other thing too is Nicole and I really thought towards the end of the season, the competitions would shift from more physical to more mental type competitions. And I felt very comfortable that I could hold my own against Jackson Mickey when it came to the mental comps. Unfortunately, the last veto and the last HOH were very physical comps. And I didn't have a chance at those.
And you and Nicole were very close in the house. Were you surprised when she won America's Favorite Player?
No, I'd already told her. I said, man, America's falling in love with you, Nicole. There's no way they aren't enjoying watching you play the game just because of who you are. I mean, I really thought that people would like her. And I remember one time sitting in the bathroom, she was worried about how she was going to get home because she thought they were just going to say, "There, give you your suitcase, and there's the gate to the CBS studios, and you're on your own to get back home." I said, yeah, they're going to take care of you, Nicole. You're good. But yeah, Nicole, it was such a pleasure to play the game with her. And I really think neither her nor I get to the end if we're not working together. It truly was a duo relationship. We both were willing to some degree, sacrifice ourselves for each other in terms of gameplay. We had one time where I went to Mickey and said, please put me on the block and not Nicole. It's more my fault. And then I found out later she did the same thing just a few minutes later. So yeah, there was a lot of trust and loyalty between the two of us. And it didn't surprise me at all. Here's what's funny. I mean, I thought about America's Favorite Player while I was in the house, and yeah, fingers crossed, maybe there's a chance and all of that. After I got evicted, I spent the next 6 days so focused on who am I going to vote for to win this thing, and so nervous, worried about making the right decision on that. I kind of forgot America's Favorite Player vote. And I don't know how. I think I was just on such a, just my whole brain just exploding after so long in that house. I completely forgot that there was even such a thing as America's Favorite Player until the finale, and they pulled me over and said, hey, we're going to announce the results. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So now that was cool. I mean, Tommy and myself and Nicole as America's Favorite, I kind of don't disagree with that. It seemed that's who I would have picked if it was up to me, I think. So.
Do they tell you, since you and Tommy were also top 3, do they tell you, oh, Cliff, you were second, Tommy, you were third? Or they don't tell you that?
Nah, they don't tell us that. And I never ask. Different people tell me different things. Who knows? And yeah, they'll never tell us. But who knows?
So what was your favorite part of doing the whole experience, Big Brother?
I think a lot of it was just getting to do something, really push who I am. I mean, I went in, I was 54 years old when I played the game, and to be sitting up there hanging from logs and hanging from a wall and running back and forth in a slip and slide. It was a fun experience. Some guys have a midlife crisis. They go out and buy a Lamborghini or something. I just went on a reality show and did that. So I think it was me proving, because I've always been huge into games. My family, huge. We play Risk and Ticket to Ride and all these different board games. And I always felt like I had a lot of ability to mentally handle and win games of those sorts. And to get in there and face off against 15 other people and prove that I actually could make some deals and pivot and be flexible enough to do things that would make it happen. So all of that, I think, was just an amazing experience. Now, the backups to that is, as I said at the first of this thing, I thought I'd just do the show and then be done with it. Instead, I've met people that I would have never met in real life. Our paths would have never crossed. And now they're friends. They are friends that I trust and I talk to. And it's cool that I know people now in so many different segments of life that otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to know. And then the final thing, the biggest, best experience perhaps, is when I got booted out of the house, won the battle back, then won HOH. And all I could think about was my family back home, getting to watch all of that live and knowing what a roller coaster of emotions they were on. And that at the end I was fine and I was still in the house. And I just in my head was picturing them cheering and jumping around and being so excited. And all of it was true. I've heard the stories about the phone calls going back and forth. Oh my God, he just won HOH, and all this stuff. So yeah, that was a fun experience knowing that I got to involve my family into the game of Big Brother. It wasn't just me playing. My thing was SKD 143, which is just saying I love you to my wife and kids and making them a character in the game as well, even though they weren't in the house.
So who do you keep in touch with from your season?
The biggest ones I talk to is Nicole and Ovi, Tommy, Christy, David, Kat as well. Those are probably the big ones. Jessica a little bit, Holly a little bit. I'm sure there's someone I'm leaving as I think about, but no, those are the main ones. I went to Nicole's wedding last year. We just all met up for Ovi's wedding last month, which was so much fun. And so, yeah, and I'm sure it's got a lot to do with the folks they're passionate about reality TV, passionate about the game, that still are involved in those circles. And so, yeah, I keep up with all of them.
And then what about people from other seasons? You became friends with people from other seasons?
Yeah, a lot of them. And not just Big Brother, but other shows as well. And it's incredible. You run across one or two that you're like, you kind kind of standoffish and all. But for the most part, once you get into this reality TV family, it's incredible the people that I've gotten to meet. Sandra Diaz, the queen of Survivor. If there is anyone who ever would deserve the right to be a diva, it would be her. And yet she was the friendliest person I've ever met. I mentioned talking to Rachel Riley, other seasons, other folks. I talked to, especially like the older guys that always play the game. I talk to them, and I occasionally get to meet the other Big Brother players. So it's always fun when I get to go to these premiere parties and hang out with other folks and see what they're like in real life versus what I envision them based on their gameplay.
And we've seen a few people from your cast come back and do other shows, like David and Nicole did Big Brother again. Kat is about to do The Amazing Race. Tom and Annalise did The Challenge. So when are we going to see you on another show, Cliff?
I'm waiting for CBS to call. I'd have fun doing it. I keep telling my my family, said, someone better call quick or else I'm gonna have to call Naked and Afraid. And no one wants to see me on that show. No one wants to see Naked and Afraid Cliff trying to survive out in the wild. But no, it would be fun. I'd be willing to do it. So yeah, I'd be happy to do it. I know I'm a little bit different demographic than some of the other folks. And sometimes I think that slows you down a little bit, but yeah, CBS, if you're listening, all you got to do is give me a shout.
What about any other people from your season that haven't gotten a chance on another show? Is there anyone else you want to see come back and do another show?
I'm trying to think. I see Tommy's done his show. Christy hasn't done anything else. And I know she had some, there was a chance to do the challenge, but it was, and then she's got kids and all of that, and she's kind of moved on with her life. I'm not sure if she would take them up on another chance, but I'd love to see it. Let's see. Kat's done stuff. David's done stuff.
What about like Holly or Nick or Jessica?
Nick would be fun. Jessica would be fine. I'd be curious to see how she worked. And Nick would be a good one, though. I think Nick's also has kids and a house, and also he may be a little bit beyond it as well. But yeah, there's a lot of people. It would be fun to see how they played the game again. Ovi. I mean, I really ought to throw Ovi out as the one that's the biggest, who deserved more than he got inside the game. And I would love to see him get a chance to do any game show. He originally almost made it on the Survivor and just missed the final cut by just a little bit, got passed over to Big Brother. I think it would be fun to see Ovi sitting out on an island, see how he could play that game. So
what about Big Brother 22, the All-Stars? Did they not call you for that at all?
No, they didn't. And it is what it is. They got Nicole and David on there, and I certainly understand why both of them went. I mean, Nicole was America's favorite and all that. David kind of got a raw deal, and so I understand why he went on there. And they sure don't want three people from the same season on there. And now knowing and understanding how that season went and some of the gameplay that took place perhaps ahead of time and all that, I'm okay with it. If I'd been in the house, I guarantee I would have been there with Janelle and Kaiser, and I would have been working deals with them, and that's who I would have been aligned with, and it would have been fun. But yeah, it didn't quite work out on that one. I'm waiting for Big Brother 50, so that I'll be like 83 at the time. I'll go in at that point and show them what a slightly older gentleman can do in the game.
Now, what about The Amazing Race, Cliff? Because I heard through the grapevine that you were in contention for that.
Oh, you heard that, did you?
I know.
Yeah, a few calls may have been. I guess it's okay for me to say a point. Yeah, a few calls were made, and it was discussed. And at the end, I always tell everyone, so when you're trying out for these game shows, if you don't quite make it to the end, you can't be upset. You've got to still enjoy the process. And so I did the same thing. I didn't quite make it to the final cut, but discussions were had, and that gives me hope that somewhere down the road there may be another opportunity.
And it was going to be you and your son, right?
Yeah, that's right. It would have been fun to get to do something like that with them. And we're holding out hope that somewhere there's other opportunities. And if not, it was still a fun process to even talk about the possibility of doing it.
So who do you think took your spot in the cast that they put on in place of you?
I figure it's probably got to be Enzo. I mean, Enzo was the older guy and I think it was his son, right? I'm pretty sure. So
no, Enzo's on with his
brother. Okay. All right. Yeah, probably Enzo. And that's okay. I've met Enzo before. A great guy as well. So, yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. You gotta look at be an optimist in life. I'm never going to look down on any of these opportunities.
So you're still gonna watch it though? You're not gonna be like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I wasn't on it.
No, I'm gonna be watching it to see what I may have been faced with. I've seen a little clip. It looks like some people do skydiving, and my wife has a few rules to keep our relationship going and strong. I'm not allowed to go skydiving. I'm not allowed to ride a motorcycle inside the city limits of Houston, and I'm not allowed to work on the brakes of our car. Those are the three things that. Oh, and I can't do electrical work either because she figures I'll electrocute myself or do something horrible. So those are the rules that we've got in place. So yeah, I always told her, said, all right, if I get on this show and they want us to skydive, you understand, right? And so yeah, I'm gonna be watching it to see what we may have been doing as part of our challenge. And of course, everyone I'm gonna be saying, oh, I could have done that, or thank God I didn't have to do that particular challenge. So yeah, I'll be paying attention to it. And I've already kind of heard who does well, who doesn't. I've heard some bits and pieces, but yeah, I'll be watching it just to see what the challenges are all about.
Yeah, so you'd mentioned Survivor before, The Amazing Race. Is there any other shows that you'd be interested in doing?
Oh, let's see. Survivor, Amazing Race would always be a lot of fun. I tease about Naked and Afraid, but actually, anything that challenges myself would be kind of interesting to do. And then there's the game shows that are more like the 1% Club or Jeopardy or some of those. I kind of be curious to see how I did with that. I'd like to think I got a decent head on my shoulder. The Floor is another one. It'd be fun to get out there and do the floor and do some things like that.
What's the one that Tommy's on?
Tommy, it's like 99 something
99
or other.
Beat. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I talked to him a little bit about it at Ovi's wedding. Sounds like it's going to be a fun one. So I'll be checking that out as well. I would be willing. It's funny, when I first had to tell my extended family that I was going on to a show, I had a nephew he said, are you going on Worst Cooks in America? So how, of all the shows you could think of, that's the one that you thought of. The only shows that are off limits for me, I don't think I'm doing Bachelor or Love Island or any of those. My wife's kind of laid the ironclad, and that ain't gonna happen on those. So I'll leave those alone. But other than that, yeah, I'm pretty much open. I think I'm one of those. Always challenge. Well, all right. Now maybe I'll add one more. If they asked me to do the challenge, I would do it. I would probably when they pointed out to the first hill and said, yeah, you got to run up this 2 mile tall hill to stay alive, I'd do it, but they probably have to be calling 911 somewhere along the way.
And you mentioned, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm one of those kind of people. People can dare me to do anything. They can challenge me to do anything, and I'm gonna take them up. I'm gonna try to prove myself, and I'm gonna give it 100%. But yeah, the challenge may not. I'm not counting on them knocking down my door anytime soon.
And you mentioned Worst Cooks in America. I don't know if you saw, but Rachel was on that a few months ago. So maybe they'll bring Big Brother people again.
You know what? And I've watched plenty of those seasons, and yeah, she was on it, and yet she was cooking in the house. So obviously, they did a good job of teaching her how not to be a worst cook in America.
And you mentioned earlier that you haven't watched your season back. Why is it that you haven't watched it? Do you not want to see yourself on TV or relive it, or why is that?
It's kind of raw emotions. I've watched the first. I basically watched up until I won Battle back in HOH, and I stopped at that point. It was kind of fun because I was able to give my family a lot of insight into, oh, this is what I was thinking, or this was what was going on. And they were able to say, yeah, but while you were doing this, you didn't realize that in the other room, they were talking about this, and this is why they did this. So it was fun sharing information. But I have noticed that when I watch even clips of my season, it still brings up a lot of raw emotions, and not just bad. I mean, even the good moments, the exciting moments, when I win the double eviction or things like that, it is because it was such a stressful moment in life. It stays at the surface of the brain. The memories seem like they were just, you said 6 years. It seems like it was just yesterday. And so in a lot of ways, when I watch anything with my season, the blood pressure, the heart rate, they still start ramping up a little bit. And I start putting myself very much back into that house. And again, it's not just regret or bad things. It's the good stuff as well. It's just, I think it's that combined with, I've already lived that story kind of. I mean, I don't know if I want to watch. I eventually I will watch it, and I think it would be fun to do. And I do Cliff Notes live and my recaps. And I've told folks on my show, one of these days I'm going to watch it, but I want to watch it with y'all so I can talk about everything that happened episode to episode. I just can't figure out how to exactly make that work without getting in the way of CBS copyrights and things like that. So I haven't figured out the way to make that work. But yeah, I'd like to watch it again. It's just for so long, it just brought up so many raw emotions that I just didn't really. It's not that I've moved on with life. I'm still big into Big Brother, but I already lived that summer. I don't know that I necessarily need to live it again.
And doing the show, did you learn anything about yourself?
Yeah, I learned that I'm pretty good at relating to a lot of different people that are very different people in this world. I mean, I grew up in Texas. I work in the oil field. I went to Texas A&M. There, I'm an older gentleman. There's a lot of things that make people think certain things about me and how I'm going to interact with people and things like that. And it was so incredible to meet people that, as I said before, I would have never crossed paths in regular life. And I've always liked to think that I'm a very optimistic, very accepting person of a lot of different people. And I kind of feel like in a lot of ways I was able to show that. And I had 15 other house guests in there, and I would bend over backwards for any one of them, even the ones I don't necessarily talk to anymore. It was such an incredible pleasure to get to know them. And it also, I've always been big. I was one of those dads growing up telling my kids, don't ever quit on anything. You know, if you're, you may be getting beat in your baseball game, do not quit, fight to the very end. And I had to kind of put that into my own process in the game itself of, even when you know you're getting ready to get evicted, still do what you can to try to make something happen. Even if you know that you are not going to win this challenge, keep on fighting just to prove to yourself, to your family, to others that you don't ever give up on yourself and what you can do. And so I feel like I did a lot of that, of just showing that you always give it everything you can, so you can walk away with your chin held high. The other thing I learned was how dependent upon my wife I am for us to make decisions together. I've traveled all over the world, but I was never out of communication with her for more than maybe a couple of days at a time. And to suddenly be away from her for 3.5 months and not be able to bounce ideas off of her and get her input and opinions really left me feeling a little bit stranded. And I could have done so much more if she could have been a wall yeller and just given me a few thoughts. I got caught talking too loud in the house. The last thing she told me before I got snatched away was, remember, you do not have a whisper voice. You need to be careful about when you talk. And as soon as that happened, all I could think was my wife back home saying, yeah, I told you so. I told you, Cliff. So yeah, I certainly realized that I am not nearly the person that I'd like to think I am when I don't have her giving me a little input and opinions as well.
So what advice do you have for future house guests based on your own experience?
There's a couple of things. One, it is a long process. I see too many people coming in that are too focused on next week and trying to do everything and create every alliance that we're possibly going to need. And let's map out the whole game. You don't need to be talking about jury selection when you're on day number 10 inside the Big Brother house. And so I know it's kind of a cliche term and all that, but it is a marathon and not a sprint. And you've got to be thinking long-term and not short-term when you play the game of Big Brother. The other thing is, you can have the best strategy in the world coming into that house, but so much is dependent upon the twist, who else is in the house. And so I think the biggest skill that you've got to have in there is flexibility. If things don't go your way, you got to pivot and do something else. You may come in thinking that you want an all men's or an all women's alliance. It may not work, so you better switch tactics. You may think that you're going to be part of a big alliance. If it doesn't work, you have to work from the bottom. Be prepared for that as well. So you've got to be very flexible. But I think my biggest bit of advice is just going to be that don't get so focused on the end result of winning versus not winning the game of Big Brother that you can't enjoy just the experience of being in that house. I value, now certainly towards the end I was ready to be done with it, but I valued every day I was in there and the experiences I had and the people I met. So it's the same thing I tell people when they're trying out for the show. If you make it to the end, fantastic, props to you. But if you don't, that doesn't make you a failure. It still gives you incredible experiences, casting calls, etc. Being in the Big Brother house, I am so lucky compared to thousands of people who've tried out and never gotten the chance to get in the house. So I'm not ever going to be upset about the way anything went. It was an incredible experience, and you just have to step back every once in a while and just look around and say, look at the cameras. I am in the Big Brother house. Take a breath and enjoy the fact that you're there and not get too focused on the game itself.
And do you have any upcoming projects or events that you'd be excited to share with your fans? I know you do your Cliff Notes on YouTube. Anything else you want to plug?
No, that's the main thing. I'm still doing the Cliff Notes, so check me out. I do, and even during the off season, I do Cliff Notes live every Monday night. So you can find me on YouTube, and we just talk. If it's not reality TV, we're talking about trips or movies or whatever. I got a whole family of folks out there that we do that every Monday night, so I enjoy that. I am going to go up to the Dallas area for finale our finale party on the last night of Big Brother. So that'll be fun. We got Survivor coming up. Adrian's here in San Antonio, Texas. So I hope to get him involved. Maybe we'll do a Survivor premiere party or something. I don't know. I'll continue to stay involved with the reality TV as much as I can. Other than that, just living the life just like everyone else.
All right, Cliff, thank you so much for talking to me. It was a pleasure to catch up with you and get your insights on the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Josh, absolute pleasure. Always loving to talk Big Brother, and this has been a fun one to talk about. So